We're live.
Hi, welcome to Plat Chat episode 218. We're back. We're not late at all, and we're here to talk about EMEA. I have some esteemed guests on the show today. Noted YouTuber Thinking Man's Valorant, big trophy-winning coach man, Mini, and of course, we cannot forget the Emmy-winning play-by-play commentator, Josh Wilkinson. Josh, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm taking time out of my extraordinarily busy schedule here. I have awards to pick up. I've got to go and practice my play-by-play casting. It's really difficult actually being the only play-by-play in the entirety of Valorant. So it's only award-winning play-by-play Valorant caster for 2024.
I'm
just
really
the GOAT.
impressive.
I don't know what to say. I'm just the GOAT.
Yeah, what was that like doing the entirety of Champion Soul, winning an Emmy for it as just the one guy?
Well, I'm glad that I could get backed up by my 9 analysts or however many other people ended up winning. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of sick. It's also particularly trolled Bren, by the way. Not because they mixed up the analyst and the play-by-play, but because Bren was applying for green card stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you have an Emmy, you basically just get like fast track through it. It already qualifies as one of the like big awards that the United States cares about a ton. And instead, he's had to spend like, I don't know, over 10,000, I think, on trying to like push all of the other visa stuff through the hard way, the long way in current year America. So he was annoyed that they didn't win last year for Champs LA. But hey, now, we can hang a little award that nobody cares about on the wall.
Champion Soul 2024 won a sports Emmy for, what is it, Esports Championship Production of the Year thing, so that's pretty cool. Josh, of course, credited as the play-by-play commentator, which he did do
only play-by-play
for all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, truly impressive stuff.
This industry's a joke.
Are you gonna be collecting your trophy soon?
No, I will not be paying for that.
Do you have to pay for it?
Oh yeah. What, you think they just create a bunch of physical ones and then just hand them out to people for free? No, they get you to pay for that.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
But Beyonce is paying.
I feel like if it's the solo awards, you probably don't pay. But if it's like one of these where it's like an entire production wins it, if you're like the whatever sub role you are, you surely have to pay for it.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. It matters not. Talking of paying for things, chat. Do you guys want to pay for something? We tweeted out a little earlier a bit of a heads up, and the members, they already know about this, but something big is cooking up for Plat Chat. We're excited to announce that there's going to be the first ever live show for Plat Chat Valorant in Toronto during the break before the final weekend of Masters Toronto. It's a partnership with Shopify Rebellion. It'll be at their HQ on June 19th, and you can buy tickets now. If you want to show up, if you live in Toronto or you're coming out for the event, you should come. It's $25 US for a 3-hour show. We're not using Canadian dollars because this podcast is just so damn free. And there's also free drinks if you're 19 plus. So make sure if you're in Toronto or if you want to come out to Toronto, you sign up for that and get to attend the first Plat Chat Valorant live show.
Yeah, it should be sick. I'm looking forward to it. We did one for Overwatch like a long time ago in 2019. And this time, we've been able to partner with Shopify Rebellion, and it seems like it'll go like nice. And there's also going to be like meet and greet stuff if you care about meeting us. TMV wants me to shave my head there.
With the race car, right?
Yeah, with a little race car. Bren got me a little race car that drives around your head with a razor blade, so you and then you can drift and cut yourself and bleed.
What is the partnership with Shopify? Is it because they got something there?
It's literally their offices. It's their headquarters in Toronto, so we're using their entire space, and they're also providing the food and the drinks as well. So if you don't like the food, blame Shopify. But we're paying for it in collaboration with them so that people can go and attend. So I think they're also going to be providing, I believe, as if they own him, Sean Gares to come onto the show too. They're gonna loan us Sean for rental.
Providing is such a funny word. Yep, we've paid big money to Shopify to provide their #1 asset, Sean Gares. But yeah, if you're visiting Masters Toronto, their HQ is right in downtown Toronto. It's like on King Street. So if you're staying at a hotel downtown or near the venue, you can probably walk to this event, and it is only $25. So make sure you get your ticket now. They're sold on the Shopify Rebellion website, shopifyrebellion.gg/products/Plat
Also,
Chat.
there's only about 150 tickets. It doesn't say exactly how many tickets are available, but there's only about enough seating room for about 150 people. And the members already bought like 65 in a few hours yesterday. So they will sell, I think, pretty quickly. If you're thinking about getting one, then you might want to jump on it early-ish.
Real quick, it's going to be streamed live, correct?
Yes, we will also be live streaming it. If you're not able to attend it, it's not like it'll disappear into the dark caverns of history. You will still be able to watch it.
But also, if you're not there, you'll regret it forever. Pay the $25. No. But if you did want to make the show, maybe you're going to miss out on a ticket. If there's ever future events, there's an easier way to get earlier access. And that's why being a member. The members have known about this for a few days. They've already managed to buy tickets. And that's one of the exclusive benefits available to you as a Plat Chat member. Through the members-only Discord, there's also the bonus content that we've already put out, and I'm sure more stuff in the future there. And just the simple stuff of a badge, an emote, and the chat, in the chat, and knowing that you're supporting the show. So make sure you go and become a member today. And that brings us to today's member question. This one comes from Ian from our Discord, who asks, who's the best rookie so far this year? They say, given that we've basically been halfway through this year, I've been asking around to people who they think the best rookie is so far. This person's personal pick is Kayak, with Verno being a strong second. Minnie, I want to start with you. Who has impressed you the most in their rookie year for 2025?
I think Kayak is the boring answer here. Like, it's like the easy, obvious answer to me. Absolutely farming with FNATIC right now. Filling big shoes in terms of Durka. Also, I like the Verno one too. It's like both Kayak and Verno have like things at the start of the year where there was a bit of pressure on them and kind of turn things around as rookies, I feel like, and that's quite impressive for rookies. We have a bit of a meme in EMEA that Sociable is a very good rookie despite being 29 years old. But he is phenomenal. So if we're going to count Sociable, he's like the cool kid answer for that question, I feel like. I'm not so hot on APAC in China right now. Obviously, Patman's doing quite well. But I wonder what you guys think.
Oh, I'll give you the cool kids answer. Okay.
Are we thinking the same thing?
It's Raga.
Oh yeah, we're thinking.
Oh,
the same
yeah,
thing.
of
We're
course.
thinking
Were you
the
gonna
same
say
thing.
this as well?
I was gonna say it. Yeah,
Dude,
as much as it
Raga's-
pains me.
Yeah, I mean, Raga's been. If Raga can keep it up over the course of the year, and I mean, especially internationally too, right? Especially when he gets to a global, because that's where he's going to get tested a lot more. But he's been farming. I mean, like ridiculous levels in China, and then he also was very good towards kickoff, even though XLG weren't that great too. I'd also say Cushy from Pacific is really up there. Like, I think if Cushy can do a good job throughout the rest of the year too, and especially because his team's actually performing really well now, which wasn't a guarantee early on. Like, we didn't think that RRQ was going to be the best team in Pacific and be able to maybe attend these global events. But Cushy's been really, really good. I think, yeah, I was looking at Oracle's Elixir, which is a stats website that looks at rounds above replacement. That I don't think a lot of people are particularly familiar with on the.
I didn't know that stat exists. That's like a baseball stat. Someone's transferred that to Valorant.
Yeah. So they've transferred it to Valorant. They did it a while back, but I kind of forgot about the website and just defaulted to using VLR for a long time. But I've been looking at it much more recently, and they had Cushy as the highest rated rookie in terms of rounds above replacement for stage 1. And I think he's been very good, but I don't think he would be on people's radar as being like the best at the moment.
Can I also throw out a name that definitely wouldn't be the answer for this question because they joined the season late, and they also play on a team that hasn't won a game? But Luxo, if Luxo,
Yeah, that was what I was going to bring up.
like get better, and he continues doing what he's doing, I mean, he is farming people.
Yeah.
He literally had like the highest in like a lot of just like, I think he was the highest ADR player in Americas on average. And there you see it there. This is the site Josh was talking about. Highest
I mean, I wasn't
rounds
looking
above
this is
replacement of
rounds above
anyone.
replacement. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't
This
looking
is
at Luke
anyone.
Show because of the sample size and because of like the team not going to global. But yeah, he's like if you don't care about sample size, it's Luke Show like hands down.
I want to give another nod too. One Seth Achilleos King DM'd
not a
me
rookie.
during this because
Oh.
we were all forgetting about Pacific, and honestly, this is a really good nod from him. But Hyunmin, who had a really good kickoff, had a really good Masters 1 as well. I think was one of the players that if they had made it into the playoffs could have been in contention for one of the best players of that event. So yeah, shout out to
Okay.
Hyunmin.
So
He's had
good
a pretty good
freeing
year.
if DRX ended up coming back. Like freeing's start to the year was ridiculous. He just kind of tailed off a little bit afterwards. Not massively, but enough that we're not all talking about him and like mega excited about him winning the award. I think
For
it's
sure.
a pretty open race.
Yeah, there's a ton of good rookies, and I imagine we're only going to get to see more people kind of step up as we get to Masters Toronto in a little bit here. But let's hop into the show. We're going to be talking about EMEA first, but before we do that, want to give a little bit of disclaimer, a trigger warning. Later in the show, we're going to be discussing the florescent sexual assault allegations. We're going to provide a warning before we get into that topic, and that will be towards the end of the show here, but just giving you a heads up that if that's something you're not comfortable hearing discussion of, that you should probably click off once we get to that segment of the show. But we'll give you another warning then. With that out of the way, let's hop into things and talk about EMEA. They were late, we were late, but we know our champion of EMEA heading into Masters Toronto. And it's FNATIC. FNATIC didn't have a fantastic start to their
shock.
year at kickoff, weren't at Masters 1, and now here they are, taking home another trophy.
Why are you saying I was shocked, TMV?
Oh, because have FNATIC ever won anything before? Wow.
I
Wait,
don't think so.
FNATIC winning an EMEA? No, get out.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
always do. They always win. We should like literally, if you just predict FNATIC to win every stage, I mean, you'd be golden. Like
You'd
even
have at
coming
least
into
like 50% success
yeah,
rate.
even coming into playoffs, you know, like I doubt many people had them winning this stage before the playoffs started, especially after just losing to Heretics. So
I mean, if you only predicted them in the stages and not in kickoffs, you would have lost the bet the only year that they absolutely dominated everything else.
Yeah.
Which is remarkable that somehow they didn't win in 2023, but they did win in 2024 both times and now in 2025. It is a little bit backwards when you think about it, but it is remarkable how incredibly consistent they've been domestically, even when they haven't been quite able to do the same at the global level, like post 2023 years. But like, holy crap. I was watching them in this grand finals and I was loving what they were doing. The game plan to start on Split just rocked Heretics. And then, I don't know, Heretics hadn't properly adapted coming out of the Icebox game either. They were massively in control for the whole series. Like, it's one of those beautiful FNATIC matches where you watch and they're just utterly in control from the very beginning. And like when they have a read like that, it's they look perfect because every decision is like they're just anticipating their opponents.
Yeah, I think I agree. The only little asterisk I can give is that I think if Heretics had won that upper bracket, I think that this was one of the biggest like map advantage banning scenarios that you could possibly get. I think that both the maps that FNATIC banned are maps that Heretics I would favor on. And then also Heretics picking Icebox I thought was a mistake. I think that FNATIC looked very bad on Icebox versus Team Liquid. But in that previous match against Heretics, they clearly understood Icebox back to that level that they used to be at, in my opinion. There's a few holes in the game, but like that kind of retake heavy style of Icebox that we were known for in the past, they've kind of brought it back with like a 2.0 version. And to me, it was the 4th and 5th maps that I thought the Heretics would be looking better on. So it's like I can praise FNATIC a lot, but at the same time, there are like it's almost like the veto made it look as dominant, in my opinion. If that makes sense.
yeah, like it's one of them where they start FNATIC start on Split with an amazing game plan. You can run pretty much all of the first half from most part. Like it's really good from
3, 5, and 7 in particular, Kurt. If you're
Yeah.
gonna run clips, I'd love to gas them up.
yeah, that's so good. And it felt like to me like and then as you say, Minnie, like then the next two maps are the two maps when you played FNATIC in the upper final that you just lost. Like those are your next two maps. So you've got destroyed on Split. And to me it felt like it took like this first split game was like so good from Fnatic. Like Heretics didn't have much of a chance, and then they seemed like it took them until the second half of Icebox to even like get into the game at all. Like they weren't even present in the game. It was happening to them, the game, until like the second half of Icebox. But then the problem was they were going to Fracture, and Fracture isn't a great map for them.
This round, so they've got a bunch of A pressure over towards here. And they're trying to pull people's attention over towards A. And then they're contacting into B main. And as these players come back, they actually did something a little bit similar on the pistol round, where they did a bit of like fake pressure over towards A ramp with Chronicle and Althea, and then they double lurked up mid. Here they do it with Yoru ultimate. They're amazing, by the way, at cycling ults. Like, I feel like their set ult rounds and their ability to cycle ults is really, really strong, which was always a big strength from Fnatic. And here they just completely encircle. The rest of the rotates are really far away too. Beautiful round. And then if you look at round 5, so the thing that I really like about Split too, though, is that when you look at round 5, this is the next time that Rifles come on board. And already Team Heretics are trying to make adjustments. They're like, all right, we're actually giving them B main too easy here. They've twice now created pressure A ramp, and then they've gone into a B exec. And so we can't get baited by this Yoru and Fade, or Yoru and Viper, or whoever it is, over towards the A side. We've got to make sure that we control B main. And then round 5, you see that they go for this... They go for this same kind of idea. They've got Miniboo pushed up over here to try to see whether or not it's real. But they're already kind of anticipating the boss is going to be sticking to the game plan and just going back into a B kind of exec. And what you get is that they re-clear B main as the A ramp pressure comes through. So they're re-clearing B main at around like this kind of timing. But for whatever reason, they then think that the pivot is going back in the other direction. And they end up getting caught by an A... what happens in this round, actually? I think they end up just going into the B hit.
Stick the Yoru on A, then he TPs back to spawn.
But what I don't get here is why are Woot and Miniboo calling for Boo to come back over towards the A side? That's what I don't quite understand here. But they do a good job of it in round 7 as well. But then Althea has his Raze ult in that round. So even though you re-clear B main, he just hits you with a Raze ultimate. So it's like every time they try to adapt to what's going on, dude, this mid lurk as well is so good. As Gen.G gets pulled into a hard anchor spot, they do the fast mid lurk with the aggressive Viper orb. It's like they just read the defense.
But Kurt, if you go back and show the map on this one, like it's crazy watching Heretics. Like Fnatic were doing a great job, but you're right, Josh. This round, like from the map, from Heretics' point of view, like I don't understand what happened to them. I think maybe just the pace confused them of like, hey, it's 40 seconds left and no one's in B main yet, so. I guess they're not going B. But if you just like, if you just show them, and you could skip ahead a bit, Kurt, to kind of like later on. But like, so this is when they get into B main, and now this is what Josh is talking about, where Boo rotates over to B because they're worried about the A pressure. You see how they kept the Yoru inserted on A, to wait for any kind of util, and then he TPs back to spawn. But now just watch, is it Woot and Boo? I think Omen and Raze. Watch them for the rest of the round, just how confused they're going to be here in a second, right? And I don't really know why. You're going to see that they start drifting back to B, once Fnatic start doing a B exec, right? But then watch, in a second, they turn back to A, both of them, like as they're coming in onto site, and they're still looking at A. And so that means that by the time they actually come back, like we've lurked all the way through stairs and got a free kill. We've double lurked through heaven, got a free kill. They were lost.
I think that's that early conditioning from the fakes that Fnatic are throwing. That, to be honest with you, I agree with Josh. Like the rotate to A there is disastrous. Like it makes no sense macro-wise to rotate to 3A. But then that hesitation that you're talking about is simply Fnatic's early faking, just throwing them off completely. Yeah, and I think that Heretics is like weakness potentially in these big moments is the comms and the stress, and it's probably hectic in the comms to the point where it's like, okay, we need to take a timeout now because it's just too much.
But I don't know, man. The Fnatic composition is so nice too. I really like the Fnatic approach to Split. I feel for years has been to be able to play compositions that have, even if they're running double duelist looks, that they feel super comfortable playing slowly, and that they never forget to apply pressure over towards A ramp. Like when they're playing really good Split attack sides, there's constantly going to be some level of removing information away from A ramp and playing with, you don't know exactly where we're going to end. And I think that the approach that they have on Split and Icebox just looks lovely for that reason. Like the Icebox no duelist comp with the Sage as well. It's like it's got such a clear vision of what it wants to do, and it allows them so much freedom. They don't get just like boxed into a hole of doing one thing. I mean, apart from playing retakes, but that just works perfectly against Team Heretics. I don't know. I was very, very impressed with FNATIC.
I think
Yeah.
to me, it's just a case of like, I get very uninspired watching a lot of Icebox from teams because I think that, like, almost like, I don't understand why Sage isn't played. Like, I really don't understand why Sage hasn't been played for the past few years. I don't think the meta has evolved to a point where you don't need the Sage. And even Gecko doesn't get played nearly enough. I don't understand why. Like, I watch it and I genuinely think teams are bad at it, and it's really struggling. Like, to be on broadcast now and to try and figure out how to explain why I hate watching Icebox is really tough. And I watch FNATIC, I'm like, okay, finally, like someone's doing stuff that's
Mini,
kind of fun, you know?
I'll tell you why I hate Icebox though, and it's rounds like this, right, where Team Heretics get a plant down and they know they need to fight, and yet there is no way of forcing a fight on site without just throwing your body into the maw of FNATIC. And then as FNATIC retake, salvo, Viper, like, there's no way of holding yellow here at all. And so you have to give up space or fight. When you fight, you're fighting into a dizzy. And then when you try to play post-plant, well, they don't have a Teo in their comp, which is trolling from Team Heretics. But even so, you're retaking into Sage Wall and Wingman. This is disgusting cheese cringe shit. And it's beautiful from FNATIC. Honestly, it is.
It's the
but
way
like,
to play this awful map.
But
yeah,
I hate the fact that, like, you know, when you come into agent select, we cannot let FNATIC play retake all the time because they're gonna own us with Sage Wall, with the Wingman. They don't even need to push bodies forwards necessarily because they have so many tools for it. But you saw so many times in this on the attack side from Heretics, they just can't force the fights hard enough because the map, like, once you have the site control on A, you can't push screens or push heaven or something. It's madness. And when you're on B, like, pushing into the site is so awkward.
I think there was
disciplined.
I think the thing I was saying that is that in the first time Heretics played FNATIC on this map, they tried to end B all the time. And I think ending B is a disaster. We just saw it. Like, the retake on B against that comp is way too hard.
So
the retake
good.
on A, I think, isn't as easy, and you can fight that backside a little bit, which was Heretics was trying to do. But I think the big weakness from FNATIC is around that 1 minute 20 mark, they're already playing for retake on both sides of the map. So if Heretics did have a style where they were like having people explore both sides of the map at once and making it really awkward for FNATIC to realize whether it's a B or A, like, they are playing hard committed retake, but like Bosa's going to feel pressured in Snowman, and the players on A are going to feel very pressured in screens. You have someone like Aspas just walking up on space, just like taking some duels.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be where the question mark is for that next layer for FNATIC. I think that first layer is perfect and beautiful. It's just that if someone comes in with a better game plan, are they going to be able to do those retakes? Like, can they just rely on it?
I want to see them play it against the teams that play the no duelist Omen. Because the Omen lets you take a lot of space on, like, the B site, for example. And so then when you're trying to retake on that, like, B retake, you're no longer just immediately in control of Nest, Orange, Snowman, all of that stuff where the Viper Wall is the line of scrimmage. Instead, now you're pushed back into Kitchen and you're like, is Orange clear? Is Nest clear? You're maybe losing a couple of crucial players there. Maybe you lose the Gecko or the Sage trying to take that space in order to set up for the retake. And suddenly you've got a much more difficult situation. But I do think they're really, really good at clearing mid and bullying mid. Because if you try to think like, all right, they're going to be playing retake on the sites, maybe we can get some like post-plant lurks to try to throw them off while they're retaking. Like, fuck that. Benji was getting destroyed trying to get inserted in mid. Because why do they care about the site? They're just giving up site to play retake. So they're like triple fight mid every round.
The other good thing is that they flank. They actually flank like they do back in the day. Like, any team on Icebox knows that, like, especially against a post-plant.
Here's Alpha, I think, doing it. Yeah, right?
Like, every time they have B long control or middle control, they actually use that control to do something with it. Whereas on the flip side, whenever Heretics have B long control in their defense, they just run back through spawn all the way back round and never pressure the flank at all. There's something that is just very good on Icebox.
Dude, watching this game and hearing you guys talk about it, I feel like somehow the Library of Alexandria, it burned. We all knew that, and it was the only teams who knew how to play Icebox from like 2023 FNATIC. That burned to the ground. Everyone forgot that this was God's simplest map, and you just pick Sage, you just pick Gecko, you flank on your retakes, you do all these things and win, and then somehow one team has just found a scrap and brought it back, and it's just good to see honest like just honest playing this map, playing comps that are good and not like, I don't know. I feel like teams have really overcooked Icebox. Like watching in Americas, like I don't mind like the Harbor Viper stuff that a lot of teams have been playing, but I feel like you lose a lot of the like fundamentals that just make this map really simple. But beyond just like their macro and the comps they're playing too, another thing for FNATIC is obviously just how insane Kayak was in this series. He ends plus 40. We were talking about him in discussions of Rookie of the Year, but for a Fnatic that lost like their two best players pretty much coming into this year, I think you got to take a moment to give some flowers to Kayak and also to Crashies, really fitting into this roster now and finding some incredible impact to win them another title here.
The coaching staff too, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the new coaching staff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm not talking about myself. Is that wasn't
No, sorry.
I felt like you were flaming.
I did not mean I was flaming Mini.
You ain't taking credit for it.
Sorry, what I meant was that they actually changed their coaching staff at the beginning of this year, right? It was kind of late into the year. It was February when they swapped out Elmer Putty for Milan. I didn't mean, they swapped Mini. That's a lot better for them. I meant that Elmer Putty came under quite a lot of criticism last year for not really being able to get Fnatic to the best spot. Again, despite the fact that they won domestically, Stage 1 and Stage 2. But I think expectations were so high after the year of dominance in 2023. And then I think they're playing better than I like this style from Fnatic more than what I saw from them last year, even though they won last year. I like it.
I remember them. See, they were playing Split last year with a Breach instead of the Fade. They were playing the same comp, and I do think that obviously, as you said, they were winning with it, but it didn't feel like they were doing as that comp should do, right? They were doing a lot of like kind of heavy exec stuff. This style that they're running now. You're right, like it does seem very control is the right word. Like they look in control. It looks like everything's calm. They know exactly what they need to do next. And then they do it and it works because they know exactly what, where their opponent is likely to be and what their reaction is going to be and all that. This is the thing that's interesting about this though, because we were saying, I'm sure if you go back to Plat Chat a year ago, like there's a ton of things that we've said about, 100 Thieves, they look amazing. Oh, FNATIC, they look amazing, all that, right? But when we went to Shanghai, what was it? 3 of the 4 teams that went straight through to the playoffs lost straight away. I kind of wanted to know Mini thoughts on this, as a coach and Fnatic. Like, what do you think there is truth in that it is a bit of a debuff to go straight through and you're coming in a bit cold?
Not really. I think we should have won that game versus Gen.G personally. I don't think Gen.G played particularly well in that game, and they were starstruck. Like when I looked at the players across from me, I could say that they were like starstruck by Fnatic players. And I don't want to use excuses, but Leo was not in his best. I was borderline about to sub in this game, so it wasn't exactly. I was warming up on stage, so it wasn't exactly the best conditions for us this day. We kind of threw that Breeze defense side, to be honest with you. We couldn't hold B site. I don't know. I think that I always prefer just to go through and not show as much, to be honest with you. I think that it suits our style as a team. Like some teams, it's better for them to ramp up and kind of they don't mind showing so much. But like I think with us, it was always like we don't want to show too many of our protocols, and then
I think if you take this grand finals split as an example, where it had been a map that was avoided by both teams prior to this. And so this was kind of the first time that Heretics were looking at what the game plan was from Fnatic on their attack side. I think that's the kind of thing that you would expect to be the advantage, is like maps like that should be the advantage for these teams that skip that first stage, because they can look at how the other team plays throughout the whole of it and build a specific game plan and then come in and rock them with something that like, okay, the next time Heretics plays against Fnatic, I'm sure Boo will be ready for those kind of tricks. But when you get hit with it the first time and it takes you like 5 rounds to adapt, you've just lost the map like instantly. So I think it should be an advantage for teams when they're going through, especially in a case like this where the meta.
So how does that apply here? Are we saying that Heretics? Oh, I guess it doesn't really apply here. But Heretics didn't know Icebox was coming up in this pool, so it's kind of the same kind of thing you're saying.
Yes, but I think the Icebox is a bit troll from them. So I want the there's no reason why they should be removing Taeho from their comp now, unless it's
Yep.
to do with prepping for Toronto. And especially when you've already been hard punished for removing the Taeho from your comp against the heaviest retake team that we have on Icebox, right? Fnatic are playing for retake on their defense every single time with a wingman Sage, and you're removing Taeho from your comp, which then means that you don't have, like, when they put up a wall or when they put up Viper Wall, they can just be sticking for half. You can't use the salvos, deny that, and use that timing to break the wall or delay the Viper Wall or something like that. So I think Icebox is just, like, bad from Heretics in terms of a game plan perspective. I don't think that was, like, a first time one shot, you can never beat this idea from Fnatic. But I think Split was more like that, where they came in with a way of playing that really threw Heretics off. The Boo will be like, okay, next time I'll be able to identify that a bit.
Do you think they are preparing for Toronto? Like, I feel like a team that's never won a trophy is like probably putting that up before global event
That's what I
performance.
would have thought. But they had an interview. Yinsu interviewed Boo, maybe Gen.G. I can't remember who she. Oh, it was Boo actually. Yeah, and Boo said it was half and half. They were kind of prepping for Toronto, but also they thought it just worked for them better. But he didn't go into why it would work for them better. It seems like a much worse comp for the current meta and for your matchup against Fnatic. But maybe it's because they prefer to have Woot on Gecko instead of Riens. So, like, maybe that was the reason. I mean, it's pure speculation at that point because he wasn't very open about why. But, don't know. That is wild, though, isn't it? That they've never won a finals. They've never won a trophy.
Yeah, the second place curse is incredibly real. If you look back at their history, they've lost the 2024 kickoff 1-3 to KC. 2024 Grand Finals, 2-3 of Stage 1 to Fnatic. 2024 Shanghai, 2-3 to Gen.G. Champions 2024, 2-3 to Edward. And then you come into the Stage 1 Finals against Fnatic. They lose this too. They're on a 5 Grand Final losing streak to get second place in all of them. Their overall best of 5 record is 3-7. They're 3 for 10 in best of 5s, and every one that they've won has come from the lower bracket. This team, it's the realest curse in Valorant.
They've overtaken PaperX for, like, easily as the Kongs. That's what they would call it in the Korean scene, when there was just a player that just made silver all the time. It's like, you got to give them credit for being an amazing team to get there, but then they just can't win.
I think what's worrying is the interview that Gen.G did after they stomped Liquid. He was like, yeah, we had an off day versus Fnatic in the upper final, but, like, he was saying, like, oh, we're playing the best we ever have, like, in the past, and it was just one bad day. So I don't know, like, I'd love to hear what Gen.G says after losing to Fnatic again. Is it just like you just don't match up very well against yeah, there you go. But is it like
Kurt's got the receipts.
Is it a Fnatic
The tweet
thing where
is,
they
we
can't beat
suck,
them?
sorry, see you in Toronto, heart emoji from Gen.G, by the way.
Yeah, so I don't know, because, like, the way that, like, he was talking about, as they were going into the grand final, I was like, yeah, we're not. He didn't, like, seem that nervous, right? Like, it's not like the end of the world if you lose this game, right? Like, it's not the most important game they've ever played, right? They've played in a Champs Grand Final. They're still going to Toronto, but
if you're trying to win in Toronto, though, it would be so nice to break the curse before a grand finals of Toronto, because holy shit, the pressure would be utterly ridiculous if you're in that situation again.
I mean, I was talking to their performance coach yesterday, Ryan, because he worked with us a bit last year, and he was saying that he kind of mirrored what Gen.G's saying, like the preparation was really good. Everything seemed really good up until, even until, like, the final, I guess, where the practice was going well, and, like, how the team was operating seemed a lot more healthy than it used to be. And he said for the grand final specifically that it felt like there was too much calmness going into it, and there was, like, no, like, performance coaches use the word activation a lot. Like, they didn't activate at all. They almost took it too relaxed, it felt. But then I imagine as soon as they get into the game, I imagine it was a very different scenario where, like, they didn't feel the pressure before it, and then probably got a bit too stressed out during it. I do think that something Neil said on a podcast at EMEA was that, like, once they win one finals, they feel like it is going to break that curse, and it's just going to be, like, easy from then on. Like, he's had experience as a player, not at that level, but, like, he had the same thing where, like, he waited a bunch of finals, didn't win, and then as soon as he won one, it was like, okay, it's easy now. I think there probably will be something there about that.
I think that's a remarkably optimistic view from Neil, though, because a lot of teams, a lot of rosters, a lot of players are not even going to get a chance to play in 5 grand finals. So, yeah, you might like break the curse psychologically and get over the hump so that if you ever make it again, you win one. But you can't guarantee as a player even, never mind as a whole team, that you're going to actually make this many grand finals. There aren't that many grand finals a year. There's like 5, right? In an entire year, if you're thinking domestic and... Because you've got 3 domestic ones. Oh, no, 6.
6.
Yeah, so there's 6 possible grand finals. And they've already had 5 in 2 years. So they've been hitting like 50% of the grand finals.
I think that one was the big one in a weird way. Like this one was like the one almost, where it's like, because the team's in a more mature state where they should be dealing with the stress better, and they're in a domestic matchup, not a global matchup, and the stage isn't as big, like this was the one to break the curse. Despite the map veto disadvantage, like I think that I think now it's going to be a bit tougher. But I think they're always going to be pretty good. I know teams fall off pretty quickly, but I think I try.
Well, we'll see if they can get in another 5 finals. So the other team heading from EMEA, other than the 2 finalists, is going to be Team Liquid. They played down below against a BBL team who went on a pretty good run, beat them out to qualify to Toronto. And so TL, they get to go back to their 2nd international event of the year. Now, it was a pretty impressive game for Nats and the team, but I think some flowers have to be given to this BBL squad. I think a lot of people really underrated them coming into this year. It goes 3 maps, and if things had gone differently on this first one, 1311 Haven, there's a real world where they could have been going to Masters Toronto instead.
The BBL, oh my god, they're gonna be kicking themselves. If you play that round 18 of Haven code that I linked in the document, like this round is gonna live.
It's diabolical.
It's gonna live in their heads for a while, I think.
Right, I think I got a different opinion to Sideshow. My chat was saying that Sideshow's different. I think we all probably we can break this down, I think, individually of how bad different and argue about what is the key things here, I think. Is this the round where it's 2v4, right?
4v2.
Yeah, 4v2. Go on then, Mini, because I want to hear you. I feel like I've already done this one to death, because me and TNV ranted about it on the coast.
They were making a big deal out of the clone play.
No,
to me,
no.
I think it's a okay. They were chat is nonsense. The jumping out of window to me is the biggest int I've ever seen, and players like Yampy and Magnum should know better than to jump out of a window. Like you cannot shoot.
Okay, so I do have a different opinion then. Okay, all right. Can we wind it back then and hear Mini's like full because the people might not have seen this play, and it really is like generational.
Okay, so for me as a coach, I'm looking at this thinking they've deadlocked Wall CT. As 3 players, we should go break that wall and simply retake off of the Euro's ult timing and scale in together and trade. Don't jump out of a window. The window jump is what loses them this round. Sociable fucks up a little bit with the Euro ult, and it's not a clean Euro ult play. But the fact that they don't just group up as 3, using terrain where they can shoot accurately, i.e. the floor and not the air.
So just to point out as well, they're getting blinded. Magnum gets blinded by his own team's Yoru clone getting shot there.
Yeah. So they double drop down from heaven and Magnum. Yeah. So my perspective on this is that I guess I actually don't mind what BBL went for. Like I don't care about the double drop heaven as much as you do, I don't think. But I just think it's criminal to have Sociable be Yoru ulting, have a paranoia setup, and actually not secure that kill. I think that there are some times in Valorant where your game plan is fine if you hit a shot that you would hit like 98% of the time or something. And if you look at their setup there, he's literally Yoru ulted in. He's found an individual player. He's called for the paranoia to connect onto the guy as well. And he's just got to land that kill that he would land, again, like, I don't know, 95% of the time. And then even if the double drop fails by the clone randomly flashing Magnum, because if the clone doesn't flash Magnum, I think Magnum almost certainly trades. And then if Magnum doesn't trade, Sociable's got a guaranteed kill onto Serial and just swings around default and gets the kill in hell anyway. So to me, it all comes down to the fact that Sociable's just missed a like 95% kill.
I guess this is the difference in like coaching is like, I want to control what we can control, and I feel like controlling someone's aim in that moment is not something I can ever blame Sociable for afterwards. Whereas if we can control the variables of decision making, like of course Sociable whiffs and it's a bit bad, but it's like They could have done all the normal stuff. Like after that round, there's not a chance I would blame Sociable.
Yeah.
I would not have like brought that up with him. I said I would have laughed and been like, bro, this shit happens. Yampy and Magnum, otherwise they'd be getting a grilling.
Okay, but you're approaching it from what can we fix for the future. What I'm saying is the actual thing that loses them the round is just that Sociable doesn't land his kill. I'm not saying that I would grill Sociable afterwards and be like, motherfucker, you gotta hit your shot next time. Because it's not gonna do anything. It's not gonna make him aim better in the future. But I still think that on an analytical level, like just getting the kill there is something that as a pro you just need to be able to do.
Had they not jumped out of the
Probably, but I'm not sure that that's... I mean, they almost certainly just get the kill on Serial, because Serial's backpedaling anyway, right? If they don't... You mean if they're just holding...
This also happened in later rounds where they refused to kill this deadlock wall multiple times and decided to have a retake through heaven. And I really don't understand. Like, I can kind of see where they're trying to avoid the deadlock util, but it's not so good that you can't just break it and then go out. And like breaking it also puts pressure on them to be looking at different choke points. And the round after, I think that they didn't kill it again, and Nats gets to look at the flank and kill someone. There was like 4 or 5 rounds in a row where BBL should have won. This game should have been BBL's win. This map should have been BBL's win. BBL should be at Toronto. Like it's pretty clear cut to me.
For relevance too, like Sociable then got shook after this. He was 15 and 10 right before he failed that kill onto Serial, and then he got 0 rifle kills for the rest of the map. He only got 2 kills for the rest of it. He went 2 and 7 after this. And he got 1 with an op and 1 with a classic in the same round.
Yeah.
And so it just, like, in my opinion, it massively got in his head. You could see the way that he was playing afterwards. He forced up a rifle, no armor in one of the rounds or something when, like, no util at all on Yoru. I don't know. It was just like, you just watched a guy negatively spiral into a doom cycle after this round. It was crazy to watch on an individual level.
They were up 11 to 8 before that round happened, by the way. Just for context for the viewer. They were up 11 to 8, and then they lose 5 rounds straight, including that one we just watched, jumping out of heaven, to go and lose this map. If they had won this map, which they were on track to do, despite many, like you say, losing both pistols, they then went on to dominate Split. They started 10-2 on that map. They won 13-7, and they would be la-di-da, la-di-day off to Toronto. Instead, we go to Fracture, they lose, and now BBL is chilling in Berlin for the next 2 months.
A sonic sensor has never done more work than in that Split for BBL.
Oh my God,
there's never been sonic sensors that... I mean, sonic sensors generally do nothing, but in this game,
Magnum was outrageous with it.
It was every other round they were getting like some kind of stun. Yeah, this is the round that.
But it was like almost always in the same place every time. Magnum had just figured out like a god spot that Liquid had no idea about.
But again, they do a great job in this round. So they get that first kill. They then put a deadlock wall behind them on A, so they can full rotate over towards B. Now Liquid are staring at a Sage wall, and it's like, oh god. So they, I mean, at this point, this is just cancer to play against. Imagine actually having to play the game against this, and you're just running in, dying. There's deadlock util, there's Sage util. You're getting pushed back, and then in a second, these two are gonna run towards vents and get cooked by a deadlock stun that just absolutely annihilated. There's like 5 different rounds where it gets them a kill or an advantage fight. It's kind of insane. This one that's just about to go off there. Absolutely cooked them. And it was really cool by BBL.
You can't see it until you go up the rope, or like you can't hear it. It doesn't activate until you go up the rope a little bit. And I think it's until you like literally peek on the rope. So you have to know where it is and be pre-firing it. But they never even figured out to like use a blast pack or something to deal with it throughout the game. I think
what's clever about it, Sideshow, is you could slightly move it. Like it's a hard one to just pre-fire because they could put it a tiny bit higher or a tiny bit lower
you
to
could.
the sides. Like,
but you could also spam it because it's quite a small area. It's not like the world's largest area, is it? And it's quite a big. I think they should have been able to deal with it after they got hit in like 2 or 3 rounds. But by round 8, they still got destroyed
by like aftershocks and stuff into.
Yeah,
they had a death to an
that was round 8. They had a stun into an aftershock combo when they were trying to clear it. But like, yeah, never seen a stun get so much value in my life. Magnum was ridiculous.
The other thing I noticed was that BBL had a pretty good. Well, I guess the game plan in general would have been good because they knew this map was coming, prepared a new comp, and then destroyed Liquid on the map that they looked the best at. But the early rounds, the A main lines that Levin was taking and sometimes Sociable were taking just to deny Nats the lurks, and basically just telling Nats that like you're gonna have to go through this mid util or take a one-on-one duel, and that's got shut down a couple of times, and then they couldn't access that ramp area of the map. And I think for new players like Levin to like go up against Nats lurking and just shut him down, I think is a pretty big deal.
I mean, you're
Forcing
talking
them
about
into
Nats
that
being shut
sentiment.
down. One of the other reasons I was slightly late was I got lost in the weeds looking at Nats stats. Because I was looking at Nats, and this is more not about the BBL game, but about the Heretics game, right? Where in the Heretics game on Icebox, he goes 1 of 15, drops a 0.03 rating. I mean,
Yeah,
one of the lowest of all time.
That's rough.
But I was looking at Nats' stats this year, and since Masters Bangkok, like if you include the Masters Bangkok games, Liquid have played 12 games. Nats is their highest rated player and highest fragger in 6 of them. Your IGL is top fragging, top rating half of your games. And so to me, like this Liquid versus Heretics game did feel like it makes me worry for Liquid of like if Nats isn't having a good game and you win against good teams.
But I also think that the way that Team Liquid play is usually going to set Nats up for good games. And it wasn't like when you watch that and you look at this, if you just look at the VLR page and you're like, oh my God, 0.03 rating, Nats must have been playing absolutely horribly. But actually, the whole team was just getting utterly whacked. Yeah. And so I don't really think that's a case of like Nats did. If Nats had been playing the best he's ever played, they were still losing that game. So
yeah. But if you go through their entire year, I think they've won 1 game when Nats is negative. Which for your IGL, anytime they go negative, you aren't winning.
But to Minnie's point, I think it's easier to control his performance because he's controlling the game around his performance too. So like, I think if you're focused on like, it's not just Nats swinging and aim diffing everybody all the time. So much of it is how he sets himself up and sets the team up to succeed. So I'm not worried about him falling off in the same way that I'm worried about, like, let's say players like Raga or Jemkin. If they go up against harder opposition, are they going to be able to win the same level of first kills and actual just 50-50 aim duels? Maybe not. Maybe not. They might fall off a little bit more. But like Nats, I'm just not worried because so much of it's based on the brain, not the aim.
Yeah. How does this color you guys' opinions of Team Liquid going into Toronto now? How high are expectations for this squad? Is this someone you're expecting to make it out of Swiss stage to actually like go out and have a pretty solid performance, or are expectations not all that high?
It was weird because before that Heretics game, I would have said I have some hope for this team, but then in that game, it looked like there was a tier gap. But then it looked like there was a tier gap in the grand final as well. It looked like there was 2 tier gaps. So it's a strange one because you'd hope, like, you know, now the team, obviously they went to Bangkok, they got some experience, you know, of playing at Bangkok. So, you know, I was kind of like hoping that they would ramp up, and I still think it's possible. I still think, who do they play? Who's their first game? I forgot.
Who do they play? Billy.
Oh, they play Billy. Okay, so that's not too bad.
That's pretty good. That's
pretty
a good opener.
So yeah, they could make out a Swiss because they should be favored for that game, I would think. But past that, I'm not too sure.
I think when they have a bit of time, like the coaching staff seems to always bringing decent stuff to me. So like when they have a bit of time to refresh, I think they'll be okay. I think some of the map, again, like I know I speak a lot in terms of like map veto words, but like I feel like sometimes it is just map theory stuff that needs to be refreshed or looked at again. Like they changed a few things where I feel like it wasn't working. But when they get that chance to cook properly, I think that they're in a good spot. I have similar concerns about the roster overall, but given the context this year, they weren't supposed to be making it to this position, I don't think. Yeah. And I think you got to give them praise for that. And I think for the long term, having Kiko and Nats as the core of the team with the coaching staff is going to look phenomenal for, you know, whether they make changes, like whenever they make changes.
Yeah, it is also going to be tough because with EMEA being the last region to finish and also being a group stage team, they're going to have the least turnaround time of any of the rosters attending Masters Toronto alongside the other teams that come through into this group stage. And also, this is a squad that I believe is playing that EWC qualifier thing, even before going into that. So going to be kind of a tight turnaround for them, and we'll see how they do. But I want to move it up a little bit because we mentioned it already. But Masters Toronto, group draws were put out, and we know at very least our opening matches. Remember, Toronto is going to be a Swiss stage group, which means it's going to be redrawn after every round. So we only know these first matches. We don't know who's going to play after that, but we do at least have those games. And if you can pull them up here, you'll see we start with Team Heretics Paper X, Billy Liquid, and then on the second day, it's Sen Wolves and Gen.G MIBR. I'm excited for Sen Wolves.
Sen Wolves actually has the potential to be the funniest game of all time. Like, I don't think there's going to be an upset there, but oh my god, if there is, it's going to be generational. Like, you will not catch me rooting for Sen for one moment. Not for one fucking moment.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Could I get a bit of lore backstory about the TMV Wolves? Like, I'm a bit like
I literally, Minnie, it was just, oh, isn't it funny that a football team has an esports team? Oh, let's just support them and pretend that I'm a football fan.
It's not just. Isn't it funny a football team has an esports team? Isn't it funny that they've taken the branding from Wolverhampton and slapped it onto a Chinese team? Like that's ridiculous too. Like they didn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's so different.
I said I would feed Cubert to a wolf if wolves wolves beat them.
Where are you finding a wolf?
I don't know where I'm gonna find the wolf.
TMZ roaming around in the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah.
We're gonna see the
just
found
howling.
footage from your camera of you walking into the woods before you and the cube get mauled by some animal.
Worth it.
I think the group draw, that game stands out massively as being the game that could be the funniest, but probably is going to be one of the worst in reality. Aspas versus Gen.G could be an awesome little narrative from previously. There's not that much other narrative stuff you can really pull for MIBR overall, because like most of the players just haven't been. But if you follow the through line of Aspas and like what he's been able to do against the Gen.G players previously, then that's, you know, that you've got a lot of history there to think about. But like, we're literally opening with the two choke teams playing against each
Minnie's
other.
Paper X.
Oi, choke teams?
Are they not? Try to deny it. I'm not saying in all
Paper
games,
X
but
have
in
won
grand finals.
in Pacific.
Yes,
They
they
do
won
have that leg on
globals.
Not global, no, but
They're not as bad as Heretics. No. Heretics have won the most. Oh, sorry, lost the most grand finals, like by a long shot.
This
But
train
these are
don't
definitely-
choke. This train don't
I mean,
choke.
we
It's a
did
new
just talk
train.
about them losing 5.
it's a new train.
It's a new train. We're building. I mean, I need to get in contact with Sliggy. I don't know what he's doing right now, but I hope it's building the train right now because we need a
I
new
assume
one.
so.
It
Yeah.
derailed and burnt and it's on fire right now. So
Losing one game equals derailing, burned on fire.
yeah, that's unacceptable for the train in one game.
Right.
Burning it on, losing one. That's not just like a delay or like something small. That's all the way off the track. It's a complete rebuild.
But I like that matchup though, like Heretics Paper X, like the idea that
So
Heretics
good.
are a team that like maybe they're getting stressed sometimes and having that pressure from Paper X immediately in the tournament could be kind of cool. And then that moment where Neil was also being a bit of a dick to Nine Freak or something.
Yeah, dude, it was
I forgot
amazing at
about
Madrid. Do you remember at Madrid when Benji was just tucked in that corner on split, owning them
that was
over
an
and over and
unbelievable
over
game.
again?
Yeah.
And then somehow they lost the game, and Neil's fucking popping off in Mind Freak's face. Like, I'm gonna fucking own you cunt.
That'll be a good one. If only it was a
sick.
final and it could be the first game where they both get second place. That would be just
so
beautiful.
good.
No, I need, if Paper X win that game, just all of a sudden the lights go out, everything's dark, and then Minnie comes sprinting out onto the stage, right in Neil Zeno's face. Fucking told you, 2-2, motherfucker.
Well, before we get into the news, I want to backtrack for a second because another set of games has also been released. The EMEA Stage 2 group draw was completed after their show wrapped, and we get to see who's going to be playing in what group into the next season. The one that's pretty interesting to me is Group Alpha. You have Heretics, BBL, Foot, and Vitality all in that group, and if Vitality has a bit of a resurgence at all in Tier 2, which one would hope for, or Tier 2, excuse me, Stage 2, which
That's
one
what we
would
call
hope for.
EMEA
I think
on this
that
show.
one could become pretty stacked.
I think this is the only group draw I've seen that looks balanced.
Yeah.
The Pacific and the Americas ones looked terrible. This one actually looks pretty good. But yeah, I suppose
a
to
lot
your
of
point,
group alpha
Mimi,
depends, I think, on vitality. Like if they're
Yeah.
like peak vitality, then that's pretty scary. But if they're glue vitality, then it's
Is it 3 or 4 that
that?
makes playoffs for Stage 2? It's still
Just
4,
4.
right?
still 4.
But for
Yeah.
Gentlemates and Apex, they need to finish in that top 4 to make it back
Which-
to Ascension.
We'll see.
I
Who
think
do you think's got a
Yeah.
better chance? I mean, obviously, I don't. Do we even know the Apex roster? I'm not sure, or the Mates roster. But looking at the groups, who would you say has a better chance?
I would imagine Gentle Mates because they're probably more incentivized to pay in order to get there as well and change their roster too. But like they had a better team to start with, I think. They just had I think they had some kind of issue with being able to perform in like map 2s. They just fell off a cliff sometimes. But if they can get to where they were at like at a good level and maybe make some roster changes, like we saw that Zipan has left the team and I presumably they're making more changes, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, the rumors are that Comeback is going to be there, who is the best duelist in tier 2 by far. But they've also picked up Vcash, I think, who is also a very good duelist. So I'm not sure what the deal is there.
I know Comeback. I don't know Vcash. How do you even spell that guy's name?
VEQAJ, I believe.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like I don't do so much scouting, but like I know him well enough that like he's a good player for sure. I'm not sure if they get them both, how the roles will line up and stuff. So I think this team's going to be much better than Apex. It's just their group, whether you know, Vitality and Foot historically are teams that should be doing quite well. So whether they step up again is basically the question, I think.
All right, Gentle Mates are in a really rough spot to be able to like keep their spot. They're not even really thinking about champs, but I'm thinking about like the 3 French teams and their chances of making it to champions. I mean, surely is Vitality the only one that's got a good shot of making it with a resurgence in stage 2 because they got a bunch of champs points?
I mean, I
Is
doubt either of them will win on points, right? Like, particularly if an EMEA well in what's it called?
Well, Vitality has
Toronto.
6 points right now. So, like, for example, if Heretics and FNATIC won, if the points stayed exactly as they are right now, if Heretics and FNATIC got the top 2 spots, Vitality would get in with Liquid. But they would need to rely on the teams directly above them actually going to the grand finals. Whereas, like, Gentle Mates and even KC, even though they've got like an all right group where they could get some wins, seems really unlikely that they would be able to make it through champs point. Or by making
EMEA
it to the grand
Vitality
finals.
game in the group might be pretty important.
Yeah, really important.
Indeed, it would be. All right, let's keep moving then, and talk about some more news out of China. And this one, Josh, I might need some help on because it's a little strange and it's still kind of developing. XLG, who is heading to Masters Toronto, has decided to suspend you. And
Me?
Yep.
Sorry,
You,
shit
Josh,
joke.
you're
Shit
not going to be
joke.
playing at Masters Toronto. But their player, has been suspended pending investigation. For some context, if you guys remember, there was some drama a couple years ago with match fixing in China. Yu was on a team with Hebei, who you might know from his time with Trace, and they were banned for 12 months, for a whole year, for Riot for match fixing. That's since cleared up, and he's been back to playing legit. And in his past as well, he was banned from CSGO for cheating on his account. He claims it was a false ban, that it wasn't his account, but who's to say either way? All we know is that one of his accounts did get banned, and also that some of his Steam accounts have been banned in the past. But this is all really old stuff that is, besides that match-fixing ban from Riot, that is years and years old now. And a lot of that seems to be resurfacing with XLG deciding to suspend him now. Josh, can you give some more context?
He decided to fully leave. So he's been under enormous amount of pressure from Chinese fans. And I think the XLG team as a whole has been under a huge amount of pressure. And I think generally what it looks like he's kind of been forced out of the team by this level of fan pressure because they don't want to deal with all of this in Toronto. And some of that might also be that even if he wasn't going to Toronto, it would be just too much for his reputation and that he would have left anyway. But I think particularly because they're about to perform at Toronto, there's so much pressure on him currently that he's decided to leave the team and just like essentially become the pincushion so that the rest of the squad doesn't have a bunch of people like getting on them for the run in Toronto. So that's that. But as for why this has come up, I'm not deep into Weibo and like reading all of these things with translate, and I'm certainly not fluent in Chinese either. But from what I can gather, take this with a pinch of salt, again, because I'm not an expert, but from what I can gather, do you remember when EDG had beef with, and I say beef, there was a streamer in China called CXY who was matching up in ranked against Kangkang and sending his fans to go and like give death threats to the EDG players and stuff. And EDG had to come out and be like threatening legal action for people who were harassing their players. This was last year at some time, maybe like heading into champs or something. I can't exactly remember when. So that guy, CXY, was the ringleader in that match fixing scandal that got Hebei and YOU banned in 2022. So he ended up getting banned for much longer. I think it was 2 years instead of 1 year. But they were still friends. And the account that they're talking about, the Steam account that they're talking about, was shared with CXY. So they're part of this group of almost kind of like excommunicated, toxic Counter-Strike people, basically, who are like harassing the new age Valorant people. Now, I'm not saying that YOU is personally harassing Kangkang. But I am saying that because YOU was connected to CXY, he's gotten a lot of this backlash from the angry EDG fans. So they've gone through, they're like, this motherfucker, he's friends with CXY. I'm going to dig up everything he's ever done. And so they found comments from 9 years ago when he was 16 or 17 years old, where he was expressing anti-Chinese sentiment. Now, I haven't seen these comments. I've just seen what people have said about these comments. So I don't know how bad they actually were. Because obviously, anti-China sentiment could be anything from being critical of the regime or something, or all the way up to just being blatantly racist. So that's the vaguity is doing a lot there. And I don't know any of the details. So I'm not going to speculate. But I think this would not probably get somebody removed from a team outside of China. I think if we had a situation like this in EMEA or Americas, I think generally the culture would be, all right, but he was like 16 when he did it, and this was 9 years ago, and he's probably grown, and we should probably judge him for what he's been doing more recently. And he's also served his time for the match fixing stuff. So I think there's a big cultural difference here, and depending on what he actually said, maybe that's relevant too. But the facts on the ground are that I think he's been involved in, like, tangentially related to extremely toxic characters within China and within the Chinese Valorant scene, and he's ended up paying for it. And that is going to affect XLG, presumably. Because I don't know who the hell they're going to be able to get who's got a visa to play in Toronto at short notice. Maybe they're sub Martin.
It's you, Josh.
It's not me.
They're bringing you back.
It's not me, bro. It's not me. So, yeah, I don't know. But, like, it makes me think about Camo and how people were really, like, not happy about Liquid paying a buyout to sign Camo because a bunch of stuff when he was, like, again, 17, there was some racist shit that he'd been saying in private DMs and that kind of stuff. But it's not like people were so heavily against it that they booted him from the team. And I don't know whether that's like, yeah, I don't know. You could have an argument about whether it's fair or not, but I think that, listen, the reality is he's gone and he's probably not coming back because people are very angry.
Yeah.
And they're not picking up Simon, by the way. People keep saying, oh, maybe they can pick up EDG Simon. Oh, the guy that set fire to his entire career and crashed and burned like a fucking dead astronaut falling through the atmosphere.
But Josh. If you're saying that, you know, the EDG fans have had some part to play, imagine if XLG just lean in and, like, we're the anti, we're going to pick up Simon. We're gonna
That would be
pick up
fire.
Simon, and we're gonna be your rival from now on to the end of time.
I don't know that WWE shit flies.
Yeah, I don't think the heel turn in Chinese Valorant is going to work out super well for them against the team with the biggest fan base in the fucking game. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah. So anyway, in terms of like actual Valorant analysis rather than drama, this is a pretty big deal for XLG. I think I've seen them change IGLs before though. And I don't think YOU was actually calling for them. Dude, I always forget who's been calling for them recently. I think Viva just took over from Coconut, but someone in the chat will correct me in like 5 seconds. But YOU was their support player, and if they can find somebody that's a replacement for him, I think it is actually a replaceable role. I've seen XLG replace like their IGLs before. They went from Crystal to Mr. Can-I to Coconut, and it worked pretty well. And now recently they've been calling with Viva too, and it's all been like pretty much of a muchness. So I think it's mostly to do with the coaching staff that seems to be instilling the kind of system into the team. And I'd be much more worried if they lost Raga, if they lost Happy Way. Yeah, maybe even if they lost like Viva, I think might be more important for their system too. I think YOU might be a replaceable player.
Sure.
But
they have
if they get the right one.
They have used Martin before this year, who was on the squad when they won Ascension as a substitute. So there's a chance they bring him back. And obviously, it's not a lot of time.
Not exactly the right
Toronto.
role. Martin's a Sentinel player, so they might end up changing the roles around in order to accommodate for him, or he might end up being on an off role. But yeah, that's about.
But even then, if they're trying to find someone else, the visa situation then becomes troubling, right? Because to my understanding, it's kind of standard that even like subs and stuff like that will get visas ahead of time for situations like this. But I guess we'll see who they can field. More importantly, though, Josh, with this in mind, you're going to have to come up with some variants on the XLG song for the new player in the roster. And we know that that's going to be a bit of a challenge, right? Have you had any ideas come to you yet on how you might change things up now without YOU in the roster?
Well, YOU fit really nicely just because it was 3 syllables. So it was XLG, Happy Way, and YOU. So, I mean, we're going to need to see them pick up a player that's got 3 syllables.
Oh, if it's Martin, you could say, like, Happy Way and Martin too.
But that's the second line.
That's the second line.
So that's the problem, is that it rhymes with someone too. So, I mean, this is the biggest fallout of all of this. Never mind YOU losing his professional career. The chant is fucked.
Yeah.
So,
could I ask a dumb question in general? Because I haven't caught up with China much. Are they currently looking better this year or worse? Like, is the fall off of EDG a good thing or a bad thing? Is it other teams are surpassing them, or is it just more a fall off from EDG?
I think XLG might no one's going to surpass EDG playing at champs, but that was unusual for EDG anyway, right? Like, we didn't actually see them play like that always. But if you took the average EDG performance at Globals, where they were like a team that you felt like could make, you know, a run to a top 5 or a top 4 or something like that, I think XLG might be able to do something like that. I'm not as confident because they don't have the star power to carry them through difficult situations, but they might be able to. The other 2 teams, nah. You're just waiting for EDG to come back.
I'd say the floor is low. The floor is higher. The ceiling is lower.
Okay.
For China.
Makes sense.
Although Trace was shit, so maybe the floor isn't that much.
The thing is, though, too, like, we could look back on this tournament and China might have a horrendous performance just because, like, at some of the other events, even the teams that you don't like, Billy when they beat NRG were not really actually that great of a team domestically, but they pulled off something incredible that people will remember. And FBX always gave you really close maps, even though they never really won very much, so people remember that. It's entirely possible that this year the Chinese teams kind of flump out, even though they are actually making progress, because progress isn't linearly measured by, like, you just get better every single time, and you know, there's going to be some levels of progress where the teams are getting better and understanding concepts better, but they actually don't translate it into matches at the global level. So I would say that overall DMV is correct, but I could see, like, Trace, for example, looked really good heading into Bangkok, and then poo everywhere. So who knows?
Yeah, that makes sense. The sample's so small at these events. It makes sense that they could be better but not show the results, if that makes sense. So
Yeah. I'm gonna take over the reins though, Mimi,
Go
if
for
that's okay, because
That's
I
all
am
right.
not.
A coup d'etat.
A coup has happened, but that's because I don't have a clue about what's going on in these next couple of
go for it.
things, if that's okay. All right. So next up, we had M80 dropping their roster and leaving Valorant. Now, I'm a bit out of the loop on this, but I know that a lot of people in Tier 2 have been worried about these organizations leaving, etc. I saw some stuff that this was due to financial difficulties, and people even saying that there was like payment problems or something. But anyone got more of an insight
what is
than
that
Marv?
gift going on the right?
Dude, he's getting subs for it. Look at the sub counter ticking up the more that he acts like a
That's
cat.
all Josh can think about. He sees that and he's like, man, I need to get my little legs out and sit on my chair and do a little dance for chat. Oh, think about the $2.50 that I'll get from twitch.tv. Just devious work.
Maybe M80 could benefit from having some more Twitch subs. Maybe that's a good monetization model for teams.
Is there
Yeah.
actually anything official about why this has happened?
So there's nothing official about why they did this. Their announcement is just basically like, yeah, we're dropping our team. And the timing is weird because you might see this and think that it's like the team bombed out of stage 2 and they're gonna drop them now because once your team's out you don't have as much of a reason to pay them. But no, this is a team who did really well in the Swiss stage. I believe they might have even gone undefeated through that and made it into the playoffs and are now starting their run for the stage 2 playoffs, and that is right before they began that run in playoffs that they did get the boot from M80. And M80 didn't really publicly provide any reason why they did this, just like a standard thank you, all of that. In the kind of crash out that we'll talk about in a second, with the match fixing stuff and the like Mr. Funhaver stream going crazy, he did say at one point in that and like alleged that M80 was having financial problems, but that wasn't something that was really substantiated, and I don't want to give too much credence to it because there is no actual like evidence to back that up. So as it stands, unless any of the rest of you guys know anything more, to me it just feels weird. I mean, guessing that there's some financial motivation would be the thing that makes the most sense, seeing as it's coming not after the team lost, but going into the playoffs. And more than that, all we can really do is speculate, basically.
Yeah, I'm gonna add some speculation on Emmy. So Emmy was saying that there's some NA tier 2 teams that get paid more than VCT teams. So that's my speculation through Emmy. It's the unsustainable business model is my speculation.
I feel like that is something about not being able to make payment or it costing them too much is the only thing that makes sense given the timing.
And if you think about M80's game plan, like they were one of the teams, the way that Riot set up tier 2 is that either you try to spend a very you could maybe try to make money through selling players to tier 1, but most of what you're going to be looking at is seeing if you can win Ascension. And maybe you do that by committing a certain amount of resources, knowing that you don't have that much of a chance. M80 decided, it looks like, based on the rosters that they constructed every year, to commit a lot of resources, make extremely good rosters, and try to bank on actually getting to and winning Ascension. And honestly, they had a great chance of it the year that the Guard ascended. They had a really good chance. And I think that would have changed the fortunes of this. Do I know anything about the org? No. But it seems almost impossible to avoid speculating that they would have completely changed their fortunes had they actually made it to the tier 1 level.
I mean, they had rosters in the grand finals of Ascension twice and lost both times.
2G. I think 2G.
Oh yeah, to 2G as well, of course.
Bigger chance, really.
It was a much bigger chance.
They should have won
yeah,
that.
They
were
basically
the
made
favorites.
a big bet and it didn't pay off. Seems we can relieve Minnie's baseless speculation.
And I suppose
Emmy's not mine.
Oh, sorry.
I made sure to put someone else's name in front of mine on that one.
Can you blame either, like, it seems it's obviously a big gamble to do something like that. Even if we take the theoretical, we're not saying that they absolutely did do this, but you take a theoretical of, you spend a lot of money to try to make it to the tier 1 level and you get second place. No, not second place twice, but you have like an extremely good chance of being able to make it twice. Yeah, you can't really blame them for going for a punt, and that's kind of like the exact way that the Ascension system is designed, is to give you an enormous return on investment so that it gives you a reason to invest. Like, the carrot is really big to try to force you to pay in order to have a chance to win the carrot. So
yeah, it's exactly what Apex did as well, and they failed the first year, I think, and then won the second year. So M80's case, it just didn't work out, I guess. The only thing I guess is with the base of speculation is there might be too many teams doing it or something. I don't know, but yeah, it makes logical sense. Like, you have to invest, especially in Americas where there's only a finite amount of teams who are English speaking. So there's a lot of talent in tier 2 that are going to expect a little bit more, salary or whatever. And the general level in tier 2 is probably higher in NA because it's more concentrated, I think. So I think that makes sense.
But if you look at an org like this and the fact that they went for it 2.5 years, something like that, and then kind of burned out, they couldn't take the gamble anymore, if this is how we're modeling them. It does seem to imply that, like, Leo's idea of opening up the system a little bit and making it so there's more carrots, so there's more of a chance that teams that take the big gamble survive, rather than just burning through their runway and running out of cash completely. It does feel like that would be a good idea for 2027.
That already might happen this year, though. Like, if both Ascension teams get straight relegated, then 2 teams will ascend. I mean, that would be a very annoying. I mean, it's not going to happen in America because obviously G2 exists.
Yeah,
but...
the big problem is having a good Ascension team in Americas.
Yeah, but
if you look at like
regions, that
EMEA,
could happen. Yeah, in EMEA,
EMEA, it's almost guaranteed, I think.
Yeah, 2 Ascension teams.
But
also, though, you would be pissed. Like, if it is true that they like spent a ton of money, imagine being M80 and you watch G2 buy their way into tier 1 that you did not know was possible, that did not apparently seem possible, and now their fucking team is fucking, the best team in the world.
Yeah.
Sad.
I mean, it is brutal for M80 because they put, like you mentioned, 2 whole years of paying what was, for the majority of both of those years, the best tier 2 NA team, and one of, if not the favorite to win Ascension, lost both times, come out again and have a team that won every Swiss stage match in tier 2, and at least with what we're assuming and guessing, doesn't then have the runway to support keeping the squad through, to see it into another chance at Ascension, another possibility of maybe making it. And yeah, it sucks because the system's built in a way that, like, an org like this that put a ton of money and a ton of effort in just missing out by this much gets no reward for their massive investment. And now the players who are clearly very talented and are popping off lose their livelihood, basically.
Clearly what you don't understand about this Mimi, though, is that it's all fixed. It's all rigged anyway for the crypto markets.
Oh.
And we got to talk about this, don't we? The match fixing scandal.
Josh, do you have your massive document you're gonna drop?
Dude, I don't have any documents about anything, but I do think it's...
Maybe M80 saw the upcoming results.
They knew that they were going to lose. They saw that they were scheduled to lose, so they were like,
why are we
script
and like, fuck, what's the point?
So, where do you even begin with a story like this? So, Mr. Funhaver decided to have a crash out on stream, which he just decided to drop a bunch of stuff in a stream. Sean busts in the door like fucking FBI, knock, knock, open up, you're ruining an active investigation, shut your mouth. And then that kind of triggers Sean to start talking about stuff in very vague ways because he doesn't want to... I mean, ideally, if you suspect that some kind of scandal is happening, you don't want to give people insight into it occurring until you catch them with the documentation or you get the screenshots. You don't want them to be going away, deleting all of their Discord threads and stuff like that so that your sources can't provide screenshots for. But what did you take away from this?
Of deleting the Discord threads is like the flushing the cocaine down the toilet of esports.
Yeah.
Like, fucking get it out of here! Delete the accounts! Delete the emails! Get rid of the Google Docs! Just burn it all down. But yeah, for starters, not a lot was said that did not mean a lot. To kind of summarize it, from at least what I could tell from combing through the Funhaver stream and on the write-ups that someone did of it on Reddit and the Sean video and the stuff that got put out, is basically Sean's thesis is that there is a big investigation coming. He's Jimmy McNulty. He's been up on this wire for the last 20 years trying to work his way through this one. And is alleging that there is a significant match-fixing kind of underground ring, both within Tier 2 tournaments, but also within Ranked, where bookies are basically putting up significant money to players for them to match fix. And,
well, not bookies, right? Because bookies implies that it's actually the betting markets themselves.
Sure,
I thought
but
it was
better. Sorry.
Well, actually, yeah. You know, now that you say it, I'm not 100% sure.
It's kind of vague.
What the rumor was. I assumed it was individuals because they were talking about winning parlays. But
and I was reading some of that too, but it also seemed like at times it was talking about something more organized even than that. So I don't know. Again, this is all speculation, and this is all just us kind of speculating off what these people have alleged without really putting any information out there. I mean, Sean's Twitter crash out was legendary. He's tweeting, "I'll burn it to the ground to make it back to what it was pre-VC, assumably venture capital. When I found is absolutely disgusting. This whole scene is rotten to the core, and I can't wait to show everyone," he tweets out. But yeah, apparently it's both in ranked and in matches that these players are doing that. He's also saying that people are basically blackmailing players to get them to agree to continue to partake in this stuff. And in his video,
which, by the way, always happens. Like, if you look at any organized sports betting rings like this, you do it the first time because you want a bit of cash, and then they hold it as leverage over you because if they reveal that, you're going to lose your career. So just, I mean, I don't know. If you're not a pro player, you can still take this lesson into any other aspect of your life. If you get involved in shit like this, then suddenly the fact that you got involved gets held as leverage for you to get deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And the only way to avoid it is to never get involved in the first place. And even if you're not talking about match fixing, if you're talking about other shit too, it's just so much easier to have a squeaky clean approach instead of trying to dip your toes in at the shallow end. You'll always get dragged deeper.
Yeah, but this to me is like the Tier 2 esports is like prime breeding ground for match fixing. Like, it's got all of the like perfect ingredients that you could want, because you've probably got a bunch of pretty young, inexperienced people who probably are not getting paid a lot, if at all, and therefore will want money, who are also potentially surrounded by peers who do get paid a significant amount and, you know, might want to get in on that in some way. And then you've got like how to fix a Valorant game, you know, this is why, like, I think like lower levels of tennis, right, they have this problem as well, right? Because to fix a tennis game, you only one person that you need to pay off, right? Whereas like a football game, there's 11 players. You can pay off the goalkeeper, but they might not have a shot, right? So it might not work. Like, how many people do you need to pay off in a Valorant game? Assuming Sideshow isn't on your team. If Sideshow's on your team, one. But if it's a non-Sideshow team, what, 2 players could guarantee a result, I would say, right? You don't even need the whole team to be on it.
Yeah, if it's a close game, 1 player could make the difference.
I mean, yeah, 1 player could do, but if we're talking like
2
full guarantee,
yeah,
2, like, you definitely
you want your Plat Chat guarantee that your match is actually fixed.
Yeah.
But also, again,
exactly.
I think some of the stuff that people don't understand is that it's not always win-loss. It's win by a certain amount, which is much easier to fix without, like, you know, tanking your record or something. So at least in traditional sports, people do tend to get more suckered in by that because they're like, oh, I can still win the game. I don't have to lose the game. I don't have to affect my career, but I can still win money by match fixing. That's amazing. And then that ends them going down the route.
It can even just be individual performance stuff too. Like if the setup is like some crazy parlay off multiple stat lines, then just like having someone be like, it's a lot easier sell to be like that someone's going to get like greater than 15.5 deaths or whatever random parlay. Like we don't know exactly what it is, but there is like levels to it beyond the most simple like throw the game for things. And the way Sean talks about it also,
save. No.
Yeah.
No,
the way Sean talks about it in his video is saying that there is like way more money in this than it was in the past. He talks about his time in CS, which obviously back in the day in CS, match fixing was rampant. He was obviously on the team that was against iBuyPower when iBuyPower fixed the match. He says they got $700 of CS skins for fixing that game, and implies that the money on the table now is in the thousands, if not tens of thousands, for fixing these matches, even for Tier 2 in Valorant. So for pros that might not be making a salary at all, or might be making a small salary, or might have a risk of what just happened with Emmy, where your org runs out of money and you're not making a salary anymore, it is a very tough amount of money to say no to, and very big stakes that is kind of pulling people into this. And then, like you say, Josh, once they're in once, you get blackmailed and you just get tugged deeper and deeper, and it becomes a more and more dangerous industry.
But I would assume the bigger the stakes in terms of the money, the bigger, like if you got caught, the punishment is also likely potentially to be bigger. No?
Yeah, I mean,
like we could not even be just looking at
puni-
like suspending of right. You could be talking about getting arrested and stuff.
I don't know.
You don't think that?
When it comes to cases like this, normally when you get to really large cases, it's actually organized crime getting involved. I know that sounds ridiculous. I know that honestly it sounds a bit ridiculous, but when you're getting to the size of like big betting rings in not even traditional sports, but in gaming as well, you're starting to involve smaller levels of organized crime. And then if people like the FBI get involved, do you remember ESIC and the fact that they weren't posting stuff because they were trying to work with law enforcement? They're not trying to catch the players. They're trying to catch the people who are putting the players in that position, who are like the ringleaders of it. So the players are not really risking jail time. Like, even though it might be illegal, they're not actually taking any major risk apart from their career. And I know that that's a shitty thing to maybe say publicly because it makes it seem like, oh, well, you could get away with it or whatever. But just the reality of the way that these kind of things unfold is that they're aiming to go up the chain. They're not aiming to go down the chain and get the player itself. To be honest, what you're risking is your career. And so in order to come up with strategies for tackling this kind of stuff, you have to make it so that players don't want to take that risk. So you either have to make it so that mobility from the lower levels to the upper levels seems feasible. Like, I don't want to risk my chance of making it to tier 1 one day. And currently people have a bad perception about that level of mobility, especially in various different regions. Or you have to make it so that they're earning enough money in the moment that they don't want to lose that. But the problem is that even if you give a lot of stability to tier 2, or there's a lot of mobility too, it'll just move down the chain into like tier 3, because these are all fucking unregulated crypto betting markets, so they can bet on whatever the fuck they want. It's not like Riot has to like even work with them or sanction them or anything. They just do whatever the fuck they want. The problem is in the dysregulation of it. Because when you have regulated betting markets, they track the betting patterns and they catch the people based on it. And they have incentives and the resources and the regulation with which to do so. When you have unregulated gambling, you just have this all over the place. And it's a nightmare. But like, dude, what the... Like, people are like, holy shit, Riot, Riot to be blamed for... What the hell do you want Riot to do about this? Like, obviously there's going to be some things, like the allegation against somebody in their anti-cheat department. That's obviously going to be on Riot. But the match fixing stuff as a whole is really tough, actually, to come up with good solutions in reality.
How likely do you think the Riot allegation is true? That someone on the inside of the anti-cheat department is being paid off to let people cheat?
Anyone want to weigh in?
Why would you need to cheat win a game or lose?
So well, I mean, you've only coached very good teams, Minnie, but some teams are not good, so they need to cheat. What's your question? I don't understand.
Okay, well, like the issue we talked about this, I don't want to go into like game theory as to how to cheat better in gambling.
Okay.
Like, give us the guide, Minnie.
But losing seems like the better strategy because it's a lot easier to control.
Chad, is losing optimal
so
when you're match fixing?
It seems like the better option to me.
Right.
With you.
So it's not necessarily related as well. I think it's potentially two separate things, an extra thing. And I think it's also... Go on, Mimi.
I was just going to say, I think this was like a massive crash out across many different things, because this was, I believe, something lumped in with what Mr. Funhaver was talking about. He was talking about tier 2 match fixing. He was talking about orgs dropping things and being like, M80's run out of money. He was being like, there's a man on the inside at Riot who's doing all this stuff, and like just alleging a ton of stuff at once, crashing out about the company that Riot hired to run Tier 2, saying that they had like a unbelievably low bid because he and his company also bid to get challengers, and was basically like, oh, it's not enough money, blah blah blah, all this stuff. But there was a ton of different things lumped in with this kind of whole crash out he had, and alleged a ton of stuff. And my understanding of it was that the man on the inside cheating thing was kind of a distinct point from the Tier 2 match fixing stuff. But maybe I misinterpreted that.
And I've linked to Kurt what somebody from Riot, the head of Riot's anti-cheat, responded about this. But this was very early on in this kind of crash out beginning. This was the first day of it happening. He tweeted, "We've not received any reports of an anti-cheater accepting a bribe or of a rioter letting someone use cheats. If any credible evidence is received, I will investigate immediately." As of course they should, but this also indicates that this doesn't mean that they've been cleared. This means that they haven't received the evidence yet from parties that are investigating, if that was the case, right? So this isn't really saying anything either way. This is just saying that Riot are denying that there's an active cover-up, essentially, right? Which, I mean, of course they would, but also I do think it's the thing with conspiracy theories is the more your conspiracy relies on many people being involved, the less likely it's going to be true. So if it is the case, it's probably just an individual acting either because they've been blackmailed or because they've been bribed to do so. But I do want to kind of cut through some ideas of what people think of when they see this kind of stuff. When they hear somebody inside the anti-cheat allowing people to cheat, I think people are thinking like they've turned off detection for his account and he's allowed to toggle or something. I think people are going into that kind of like realm of nonsense. In reality, what happens, and we've seen it happen in Counter-Strike as well, is that people leak the live minimap feed or the live feed of the match or something. And you just see where the players are and you see what the setups are. And that's how you cheat. You get live radar or you get live setups of the utility. Can you imagine how easy it would be to cheat in a match if on your second monitor you had the live game feed? And that's the kind of cheating that we're talking about, at least my speculation based on what's been happening in Counter-Strike over the last years. We're not talking about somebody turning off the ability to like fucking detect whether they're toggling and aimbotting. It's more to do with having information that the players should not have access to. That's the level of normally how this cheating works. And Richard Lewis has done a lot of good reporting on how this has been happening in the Counter-Strike scene too, where in these online tournaments, either somebody gets paid or blackmailed and they're handing out the live minimap or something like that. And it's a really big problem. And it's also difficult to get a handle on because that live feed has to exist. It's important for the production. It's important for many different people. But making sure it's locked the fuck down and doesn't go to somebody it doesn't, like it can't, somebody it shouldn't go to is really important there.
What you're talking about, though, is about like broadcast matches, someone getting an undelayed feed, right? Is what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
Which is wouldn't be like some internal anti-cheat game team person if it was what it was in Counter-Strike.
Probably not, which is why I would speculate it's probably not even someone from the AC team. They just thought it was. But maybe it is.
Couldn't that even be would that be a third-party tournament organizer?
Depends on the tournament. It depends on who's producing it. But also at the end of the day, it's like what he said was just another thing added to a list of things that were alleged, and not much was added on top of that. So I don't want to give it like too much credence, but I don't know.
Sorry, I've also just got a recent purchase tier about paying good. Yes. I also just want to give an update on something. We literally announced the live Toronto tickets at the start of the show. We're already sold out. We're already sold out. So if you were thinking about getting tickets for Masters Toronto,
maybe we can figure out
Ticketmaster. It's all bots. It's Sideshow bots. He's selling them in a massive markup.
Maybe we can figure something else out because it seems like there's a demand for them.
If there's an enormous amount of demand, then we might possibly be able to do 2 nights. I had vaguely raised the idea of that, but I wasn't anticipating us selling out instantly. But yeah, awesome. We'll see you all there. Thanks for buying the tickets.
You'll see some of them there. A lot of disappointment.
Yeah, a lot of scalpers, people selling it for $1,000 a ticket right outside.
We should raise the price to $1,000.
Yeah, we should have raised the price massively.
Ticket.
Man, we
Yeah,
messed up.
that's a great
Would've been
idea.
crazy profit going into our pockets. I think we're set to profit about, I don't know, a couple $100 from this. We really should have gone crazy. Do we have any further discussion on this match fixing allegation rumor kind of thing?
There's
a
really
lot of it
not
you just
a
have to
lot
wait for evidence.
Here
Just
is
that
the
if
thing.
it is true though, then that's gonna make. I mean, what would you do if you were Riot? Like, going forward, like if it was true and you realize that a lot of the games was potentially compromised, that makes it quite tricky going forward. Is how you're gonna sort out, the standings, ascension, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you'd, in some sense, have to let it stand, because what else do you do? Like undo it all?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you could just. What you would do is that if you're presented with
But you can't
direct
let it
evidence
stand
of
because
people
then
match
you're just saying
fixing, you have
whoever
to.
match fixed the most.
Well, no, you obviously.
Gets the advantage.
You obviously have
Sorry,
to
guys, you're good
disqualify
enough
the
at
people
match-fixing.
involved in match fixing. But what I'm saying is, like, if that gives a massive amount of free wins to somebody, you know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be
Sorry,
fallout
guys.
that you're
Vince
not
McMahon
intending.
decided that you weren't the chosen one this week.
Minnie, who would you have win in EMEA if you could choose?
In EMEA,
EMEA Tier 1 is now being decided by you. You are the match fixer.
Right.
I
the
mean,
script, yeah.
BBL Pacific don't need match fixing, and they're going to win anyway. So
Right.
it's them. Like, people might even try and fix against them, and it's not going to work because they're that good.
Personally, I'm excited for the TenZ heel turn where he chucks
Yeah.
his monitor across the stage while subbing in for Cubert Academy.
Yeah,
That one will go crazy.
That would be the funniest shit of all time if TenZ retired and then match fixed in Tier 2 for no fucking reason. That would be so funny for no reason.
I think the money required might be quite high. For
Yeah.
TenZ's,
He's doing it for £2.50.
Yeah, Josh, I
One
don't know if
twitch
I
sub
see
guy.
that script coming to fruition.
No, but TenZ did join Cubert Academy, right? They've done the big, TenZ is back for Sentinels, but actually it's for the Sentia 2 team. He played a game, he played Duelist, they lost 0-2 to Winthrop University, MCE Supremacy. What's
I
actually
don't
is
think
MCE still
MC is
with
with
them?
Winthrop.
He doesn't
anymore.
know. Josh doesn't know.
Oh, Winthrop, dude, what am I'm not even talking about that anyway. He was with Maryville, wasn't he? That's even the wrong
Yes,
university
I know.
team.
yeah.
Dude, I'm just an idiot.
Oh.
He's gone over to work for Global now, though, hasn't he? MCE.
Yep.
Anyway,
It's on the global
Um,
team.
Cubert, what are you thinking about TenZ returning to Cubert? He's unretired again for the second time in his career.
Is this like is this just a fill-in spot, or is he... I watched the
Yes,
video, I
it's
couldn't
just
quite...
a fill.
Oh, okay.
Because they couldn't play. They made a mid-season roster change to someone who was on another Challengers team on Ambrosia, and then for whatever reason they can't play with him for the playoffs. I don't know if it's some rule thing or something else. I didn't do enough research, but basically they can't play with their fifth. They needed a fifth. They sub in TenZ.
That's cool. I was thinking about like K-Drill's like League of Legends team a little bit, like how they did like a streamer, former pro player vibe, and like if TenZ ever wanted to compete on any level where it's like a bit more chill like that, that would be super cool to see. Like, I was thinking of like an OAP super team, asking some of my Discord and chat like who would be the OAP super team of like retired people, and I think that I wonder what you guys think about Sliggy head coach. Sliggy
Okay.
head coach would be good. But
Are you
Artist,
not
TenZ,
retired?
Marv, Sassy, and FNS. No, I'm the GM. I'm the GM.
Okay.
Mm.
I get to bully Sliggy.
What was the roster
Fire him.
again?
The roster is Artist, TenZ, Marv, Sassy, and FNS. OAP super team. Tier 2 is ours.
Do you think you actually win in Tier 2?
Absolutely.
Really?
And we stream all our pracs as well.
Oh, now that's the success key. That's what they've been doing in League recently, right? With K-Drill's
K-Drill's
team.
team.
Yeah.
Los
Yeah.
Botones, and they won EU Masters, which is basically the equivalent of winning European Ascension, except they don't get an Ascension spot because League of Legends, but pretty sick.
Yeah. Are you going to be tuning in for all of Cubert Academy's games now, Mimi?
I love TenZ.
Did anyone actually watch the game?
No.
What a great podcast this is. We're so insightful.
Some people did. I saw a lot of people were very excited to tune in and watch, but
Chat,
but
I don't think
opinion.
Minnie was
Not
asking if literally anyone watched the game.
just 0 viewer
Did
game.
anyone chat anyone, please?
I mean, it's fun, isn't it?
I think
And
TenZ was streaming. Wasn't he streaming his POV with his comms, but like muting the comms of his teammates
Oh,
or
that's
something?
interesting.
Like, if he
Oh, I
did it with
see.
full comms, I would actually VOD review that.
Yeah.
If it's just his comms, like, could maybe
It's a
do
bit
it.
strange. He's just talking into the void.
Yeah, a little bit strange. Yeah.
it's still, I think that's still a really sick resource for people who are trying to think about how pro players communicate. Like, you don't really get to see the back and forth, but at least you
Yeah.
know, like, what on his screen he thinks is important to the comp.
I think it's the closest thing to a demo I guess we have. So I will probably look at it either way and try and see if there's anything valuable that you can kind of pick out as content or analyze how that all works. But
Replay viewers come in mini.
is
Drop
is
in.
it?
Yeah, they announced it.
I mean,
Didn't
they
they?
announced
September,
it.
right?
If it's still not coming mini after they've actually come out and said it is,
In
then,
September?
yeah, we're fucked.
Okay.
Yeah, they
I'm
literally
not
said
going
a
back to
month.
coaching then.
They
I
said it
just-
was September.
I just do demo reviews as my entire job then.
I actually think that would pop off. Like, I really think once they release the replay viewer, there's just going to be like YouTube channels of like, this is, well, who knows if they're even going to allow it for pro games or something. But like, you know, this is Kayak's full
Imagine
POV.
they release it and they don't let you have the demos for pro games. That would be the all-time troll.
That would be classic. That would be classic.
I
Or
mean-
at least like a half-baked version of.
But
a
isn't
replay
that
view.
isn't that actually really like does have a decent likelihood of happening? Because like replay viewers in Overwatch, well, Overwatch was a bit different, but like you could get replays for your own games, but there's no guarantee that you
On
can like.
CS, you could just
download
download
a
any
file.
demo of any pro
Yeah,
game
but-
ever.
In
But that's not how
Half-Life
this is going
1,
to work.
you
It's
can
not
do
a
that.
source game. Yeah, but it's not a source game. That's not how Unreal Engine works. You don't
In
download a demo
TF2, you
file.
could do that.
That's just another source game. It's
In
mention
TF
anything that
Classic,
isn't
you
a
can
source
do it.
game. Okay, I don't know what that was built on. Was that built on source?
I think it was Gold Source. Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. All right. Let's. Do you think that TenZ is going to come back? Is he going to unretire?
No.
Unless
Good.
he joins my super team.
Mm.
Of course.
Offer pending.
Of course.
The offer is pending, so you're not even quite sure yet, Mini.
I don't know if I used the wrong word there. I'm waiting for his response.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Have you offered a lot of money?
No.
Good. That'll entice him.
You can
That'll
see my
entice him.
bedroom. I'm not exactly living a lavish life right now.
That bed looks like a dream.
What?
You know, so I tried to hide the table here too,
That's
and
him
I just
trying to
realized it's
flirt,
just
Mini.
in the shot still.
Are you trying to hit on him, Josh?
That bed looks so comfy, Mini. Maybe like we should snuggle. Okay. No, I'm not gonna try to hit on Mini. I'm not gonna do.
That's good.
Okay, that does it for the bulk of the show. So that's all of our Valorant stuff that we're going to be talking about today. Again, we're going to be now moving on to discussing the allegations raised towards Florescent. So these, I mean, we're not going to go into a huge amount of detail, but we're still discussing a pretty distressing topic. So just a warning for people that the content is going to be really heavy. That if you want to click off now, you're not going to miss anything else. We're not going to be talking about any other Valorant content. But we're also not going to be talking about a ton of drama either with it. It's, I think, really important that we at least bring it up and address it because it is, like, heinous, the allegations. But I think we don't want to go through a full timeline and all of the details and that kind of stuff because it's astonishingly heavy. And also, I don't think we're going to get anything out of it other than just distressing people by talking about the details over and over and over again. I don't think. Listen, if you're interested in why everybody has such an extraordinary negative reaction to this after otherwise having either no or a positive opinion about the player, then you can go and look up the information yourself. But the summary of it is that Florescent has been accused, I would say, very credibly of sexual assault, of a level of manipulative abuse as well in prior relations. We've seen people coming out from former teammates and other people that she's been interacting with over the course of her career, kind of not necessarily corroborate the main accusation, but build a picture of somebody that was, at the very least, unpleasant towards those that were trying to do the best for her. And I'm sure that there's a large amount of this that you could go into and talk about the mental illness component of it, but I think it should be blatantly clear that that does not in any way allow you to act in a way that causes enormous amounts of harm on other people that you interact with. The details of the allegation are genuinely horrific. It's some of the worst stuff that I've read in this space. So yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we discussed it in the sense of bringing it up, saying that we have a lot of sympathy for the people affected and don't expect there to be a return for Florescent, essentially. I don't know if other people have anything that they'd like to add on that front.
Yeah, I think the probably the best thing to pull up to just give a good approach to how to talk about this or handle it is the statement that her former teammates on Shopify put out, who obviously she played with for 2 years. Fleur lived with Sarah during that time, and like we're obviously very close people to her. But basically, I think that this kind of the guide how to handle something like this that they're talking about. I mean, read the statement for yourself in whole. I'm not gonna read it through all the way, but they're basically just saying that Fleur's behavior is obviously reprehensible, and that at this moment you should focus on the victims and hoping that they're okay, and anything that can kind of be done to be better for them in what is obviously a really terrible situation. It takes a lot of strength to come out and actually like publicly make allegations about something like this that is really one of the most like horrible and traumatizing things that someone can go through, and then putting that out on the internet against someone who has a really big picture in the space and is obviously is going to get a ton of attention. And yeah, honestly, I don't really know what else to say besides that it's just incredibly reprehensible what she's done and what she stands accused of here. And also that I think a lot of people are going to go into a position of like, but there's no actual evidence, or there's no whatever. But and a lot of times with sexual assault, it's one of the things that is like the least often actually convicted. If you look at the numbers, it has something like 1/6 of the like conviction rate in actual like criminal cases for rape than something like assault. And a lot of the time these things are really hard to actually to prove and go through with, but I think what the victim has put out is pretty credible, and the way the behavior has been corroborated by other people that knew Fleur and were close to her, and yeah, it's just really bad and extremely disappointing to see someone do that really horrible shit, especially someone who a lot of people held up to as like kind of a role model and a very impressive player in her own right. So yeah, really shit.
Yeah. And a reminder to that people on the internet can be extremely terrible people, and that just as a general, you don't know people. So there's going to be a lot of the sad reality is we are going to have these kind of conversations again in the future. We don't know when, but it's almost inevitable just because of the space and also the amount of people involved, how common this kind of stuff can be. I wish that wasn't the case. Hopefully people can learn not to be pieces of shit. I think that does it for us though, for episode 218. Ending on a somber note, a serious note, but appreciate you for the rest of the episode, and thank you for joining us, Mimi, TMV, Mini. We will get further information to you about the Toronto live show, of whether we can expand it at all. It's possible that we might not be able to, and we'll also have an episode coming at you next week too, where we'll be going through power rankings for Toronto. So we're going to be power ranking. The week after that, we're going to be doing the top 10 players and pick'ems and that kind of stuff. So keep an eye out for next week, and we will see you then. For now, this has been episode 218. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you then. Bye.